Good evening, happy Friday, everyone. I hope you guys had a wonderful week and that you stay safe out there. I know it's pretty crazy out there, so hopefully you guys are staying safe. Today's video is to go over my thoughts on the Gryphon Colosseum amplifier that I have owned for the last, I think, 5 months, and just to give you an idea of where I think this amplifier sits on my rating scale. I have rated the SimAudio 860 version 2 and the Luxman 900U, and I have given those 73 and 72 respectively. Okay, so let's just get started. First category, resolution. Resolution is a category that I feel this amplifier is very, when it comes to this amplifier, it is very rich, refined, a feeling that you're there. Nothing is ever oversaturated or overdone. The resolution seems to also capture the right amount of space and air between instruments. Nothing ever sounds scrambled. I gave the SimAudio a 7, a Luxman 7, and the Gryphon an 8. So I have the Gryphon ahead on this particular category. Next category, bass control. This is an easy, guys. This is a 10 for me. This is the best bass control I have ever owned. Best bass control out of any amplifier I've ever owned. Okay, it has slam, weight, articulation, layering, that Past Labs Constellation, Dan D'Agostino momentum we're never able to touch. This is the biggest gap, in my opinion, actually, between this amplifier and the rest of the amplifiers that you guys have seen in my channel. I gave it a 10. It really, there isn't anything better that at least I have owned. Clarity. When it comes to clarity, I gave this amplifier an 8, and I gave the SimAudio and Luxman a 7. Why? The clarity here is really a notch above. The guitar strings pluck. The drums really whack with realism, and all the instruments just pop. You clearly hear where instruments are placed on the stage. You never feel any sort of haze or muffle feeling or anything between you and the presentation. It is really a window between you and the music playing in front of you. So when it comes to clarity, I do believe this amplifier takes you just a little bit above the Luxman and the SimAudio. Next category is the category where I feel this amplifier lands, which is the slams and dynamics category. This amplifier is not, in my opinion, an amplifier that can easily be beat when it comes to slam and dynamics. I gave it a 10. I gave the SimAudio in comparison a 7. Why is that? Well, simply put, this amplifier really throws music at you, not noise, at any volume level you wish. I mean, it doesn't matter how hard you push it. It really will never sound compressed, congested, regardless of where the volume knob is. Okay? At times, it almost makes you feel a little bit nervous to keep cranking it up because you wonder what's going to tap out in your system. What's the weak link? Is it going to be a woofer? Is it going to be a tweeter? I mean, what's going to go out? Is it going to be a window maybe in your room? It really is an amplifier that is not afraid to be pushed hard. Next one is speed. When it comes to speed, I gave the SimAudio 860 V2 6, the Luxman 900U a 5, and the Gryphon an 8. It definitely plays faster than both amplifications, than the SimAudio and the Luxman. I always think of it like this. The Luxman is a yacht cruising on the ocean, and the Gryphon is a speedboat. I mean, that really, it just takes you from point A to point B much faster. That's the best way to put it. I can't put it any better than that. The Luxman being the suite amplifier, it's not really known for speed. It doesn't go about its business that way. And although the SimAudio does have more speed, it doesn't touch the immediacy of the Gryphon Colosseum. Next category, soundstage width and depth. I gave the SimAudio an 8, the Luxman a 7, and I give the Gryphon a 9. Why? Let me tell you why. The first time I brought this amplifier here and I turned it on, dead cold after traveling to me, the biggest thing I heard was a huge and wide presentation. You almost get the feeling like the music is being stretched side to side. The soundstage is so wide and deep that it really makes you feel like the sound coming out of your speakers isn't proportionate to the size of your speakers, because it just makes your speakers sound larger than what they are. And on top of that, it makes your speakers disappear in the room. And I've always said that. That's one of the most impressive acts and hardest acts to follow when it comes to the Gryphon Colosseum. Next category is detail. Sim Audio an 8. The Luxman has an 8. Gryphon has a 9. I feel like this amplifier has just a tad more resolution. And it also just goes behind the music like an X-ray machine, and it brings and digs out the extra ounces of resolution that the Sim Audio and Luxman don't serve you. It really brings even more of that information that sometimes is hidden due to noise, due to power conditioning issues. It somehow manages to still go and scrape it out of the music and bring that forward to you. So when it comes to detail, I do believe it is ahead of those two amplifiers above. Aesthetics and construction. The aesthetics and construction category, I rated it the same as the Luxman, which is an 8. I have the Sim Audio with a 7. Why? I do believe the Luxman and the Gryphon have a little better construction quality than the Sim Audio. I do find them that they go a little more above than what Sim Audio is doing with their amplifier. But of course, you have those people who may not necessarily like the Gryphon Colosseum's looks, because it is a vertical amplifier. I think the only other brand that looks somewhat similar are the Mark Levinson's number 33, 33H, and I think Halcro amplifiers also look the same. So it's a very distinct look. If you hate that look of that computer tower look that the Colosseum has, you're not going to like it. But I mean, that's a personal thing. It's got nothing to do with the functionality of the amplifier. It's got rock solid construction. It weighs 172 pounds. It's built to last. I mean, you feel it when you touch the heat sinks on the side, and it screams quality, and it just works flawless each and every time. Next category, value for the money. Value for the money, I gave it a 7 out of 10. So right now, that's the only category where I feel it just ranks lower. I gave the Sim Audio an 8, and I gave the Luxman a 9. Why is that? Well, the Sim Audio is $18,000. The Luxman is the cheapest out of the three at $15,000. Gryphon is $50,000. Okay, so when it comes to value, it is the worst out of the three, in my opinion. I'm giving it a 7, because I do believe at that price point, you should be able to have monoblocks. Now, does that mean that monoblocks should sound better? Not necessarily, because I do believe the Gryphon Colosseum is a cost, no object stereo amplifier. One of the very few out there. Okay? And then the last category is my personal grade. Personal grade is what I think of it, regardless of the rest of the categories, where I rate it. So I gave the Sim Audio a 7, I gave the Luxman an 8, and I'm giving the Gryphon a 9. Okay, I gave it this has the highest grade yet out of any amplifier that I've reviewed. To be sincere with you guys, I have thought about selling my Gryphon Colosseum a few times. Every time I think about it, I'm so nervous, very nervous about selling it, because I really don't see where else I can go. It makes me just feel like if I sell it, I'll go back and buy another Gryphon. Maybe a Mephisto, maybe a pair of monos or Colosseum monos. It doesn't make me feel good to sell it, because I'm afraid that the next purchase may not necessarily be better, just different. And that's something you guys need to understand. A lot of times you guys buy a new amplifier and think it's better, but it's not really better, it's just different sounding. You're not really getting a product that does more than the amplifier you already had. And so that's where I hit the brakes. I've been trying looking hard to see if that amplifier that can replace my Colosseum exists. And I'm sure it does for a heck of a lot of money. But I'm not sure I'm ready to do that. You know, I'm not really positive that it's going to be that easy for me to replace the Colosseum. Because, for instance, with the Magnepans you see in front of you, it does sound better than my Momentum. It does. I mean, it's Class A. It's got, you know, a massive amount of capacitance. It has, you know, an incredible amount of grip and control over the panels. It does a lot more things than the Momentum does. Momentum does. It does a lot more with hard to drive speakers. And so it's kind of difficult for me to part ways with it and then having to buy different amplifiers for different speakers. I feel like the Gryphon Colosseum, and I'll let you guys think about this. I feel like the Gryphon Colosseum is really like the jack of all trades when it comes to amplifier. That's the best way to put it. It'll sound good with efficient speakers, inefficient speakers, tall, short, wide, 3 woofers, 2 woofers, horns. I think this amplifier will sound good with any speaker out there. Now, of course, there might be speakers that are better for it, like I believe Wilson sounds incredible with it, and I'm sure there are other brands that also sound really well with it because of the synergy. But to say that I have heard a Gryphon amplifier sound bad, never, guys. Never. That's never been the case. Okay, and then the overall score. You ready? Sim Audio had an overall score of 73. Luxman had 72. And I give the Gryphon an overall score of 86, guys. 86 points. Some of you might say, wow, that's a big gap. Well, guys, there is a gap. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it here. There is a gap in performance. Okay, you know, when you look at each category broken down the way I have, most of the categories the Gryphon won, and most of the categories with the exception of value for the money. It is not the best bang for the buck. Okay, it's not. It's still the Luxman, the best bang for the buck. But overall, holistically, the Gryphon is on another level. It really is. It does. It just takes you higher, faster. And it makes you get the sense that you may never have to replace it because it's hard to find something that sounds as good as the Gryphon does. It really is hard. All you can find out there, in my opinion, so far are amplifiers that sound different, not necessarily better. And that's something that I have learned throughout the years with different amplifiers. I knew I wanted the Gryphon 2 years ago, and I don't know which one I was going to buy. I happened to end up with the Colosseum, and I have not once regretted my purchase. Really, it's a machine. It's a machine at all levels. Now, does it have some negatives? Yes, guys, it has some negatives. What are the negatives? As I mentioned on my previous videos, it doesn't like high capacitance speaker cables. So if you're running Cardas, if you're running those speaker cables that have high capacitance, now you have to buy new cables for it. If you're buying XLRs that have high capacitance, now you have to have new cables for it. Okay, and on top of that, I think one of the biggest problems that I have with the amplifier, the power cord, the connector is under the amplifier. And so you have to tilt the amplifier to one side or lay it down to plug in your power cord. And so that's a pain because if you're into like what I do, right, changing power cords, it's a process to plug and unplug things. It's a process. It's tedious. I hate it. And so, you know, and so those are the things that you have to think about, okay? In regards to the heat, no, I don't think it does have a lot of any more heat than most Class A amplifiers. As a matter of fact, I'm willing to say that the design of the amplifier, for whatever reason, makes it feel less hot than other offerings like the Past Labs, you know, Plinius amplifiers. It feels like it just puts out less heat. And I don't know if it's because of the design, the way it's laid out internally, but I do feel like it doesn't heat up your room at all. It never does. It never cooks my room. I could play this amplifier hours on it at full throttle. It never cooks my room. Okay, so there you have it, guys. In case you were wondering where I was and what I feel about the Colosseum, now you know. And if you have an opportunity to own one of these amplifiers, just know that That could very well be the last amplifier you own. And I don't think anyone would regret that purchase. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the room. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the 3.7 ice, and I have the Christine in here. I just got it yesterday. All right, and then you have the Element 118s there. Those are the 118s. In case you're wondering what they look like in person, there you have it. Element 118s. They're just, I just turned them on. They just arrived literally about 2 hours ago. So I'm not going to play music. That's for another video. We're going to be cooking a lot of stuff here with amplification. Just so you have an idea what's in here. Okay, and then we are going to have, this is actually an external power supply, guys, for the, if you're wondering what that is, that's an external box for the preamp that the Christine preamplifier has. All right, so that's pretty cool. It helps a lot. All right, guys, thank you for your time, and more videos to follow. Please subscribe. Good night.